County. Terry, I thought we were friends until you sandwiched me in the program between Alcee Hastings and Governor McAuliffe. But we've had a tremendous summer. I talked to Governor McAuliffe on the Thursday before Charlottesville.
I don't have a cup. Where's my cup? Okay.
And what happened afterwards in the response of our president was terrible. And the presence of Governor McAuliffe on national TV to make sense of what was impossible gave us hope. We have, over the course of this summer, seen Hurricane Irma, which was a storm that impacted the whole state, unlike that we've ever seen before. The devastation in the Middle Keys was terrible and continues to be terrible. Shortly thereafter, there was Hurricane Maria that just wiped out the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. On Monday, just after the Senate district race, we took 2 planes of elected Democrats filled with supplies and Mayor Flores from Green Acres down to Ponce to meet with the mayor and 2 other mayors, and a governor that had not come to Ponce, the second largest city in the country, in 2 weeks, suddenly showed up and met us on a country road. And the mayor cried, "We have seen not the first person from FEMA, not the first person from the military, not the first bottle of water, no food, we have no power, we can't get cash at our banks, and we are dying." By the time we left that day, the military had showed up at the airport. We are going back again on Tuesday, and we'll keep going back until our president shows up with help. That morning, when driving to the plane to take off, we were getting the first reports of the massacre in Las Vegas. And when our staff sent to me our first press release with our response, I said, "Where's the call for gun control?" And the Republicans were already on TV saying, "Not now." Well, if not now, when? So that cry will go across the country, and maybe our country that has more mass killings than any other country in the world, than any 10 countries combined, maybe it's time. So, on top of that, those terrible things this summer, we have some good news. We had a mayoral primary in St. Petersburg. Our incumbent candidate reached out 6 weeks out, down in the polls 13 points, and asked for help. Party came in, adjusted the message, gave it a hard partisan tone, because our guy was progressive. And we said their guy was on the extreme team. Their guy was a climate change denier. And our guy was all about protecting his city from the pressures of climate change. We went on the air, paid for by the party, and in 30 days, a 13-point deficit was a 3-point deficit. We then got this unemployed guy who used to work at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to publicly endorse Mayor Kreisman. 3 days later on election day, we won by 69 votes. That was a race that everybody told us to stay out of, that we had no chance to win. We were going on in the general election in November, we were winning. 10 days ago, we had this small election in Miami. We had a state senate special election, and I could not have had a better partner in that race than Senator Clemens. Thank you so much. Our party president, the day after the primary, said, "Bittel, you need to call all the players in this race together." And I said, "Well, I can do that, but why would they come?" And she outlined all the reasons that everyone was going to come, and they did. In the most coordinated, effective fashion ever, we put together a field operation that won that race. And by the way, no small part of it was all the phone calls made by this Palm Beach County DC, probably leading the state. we beat arguably the most popular Republican state representative. And people said, how did you do it? I said, something about knocking on 50,000 doors in the last 4 days with an unprecedented sized field operation won that race, coupled with 162,000 phone calls logged by Democrats all over Florida. We won Election Day by 19 points. They're still stunned. And by the way, we're going to win more, and they're going to be even more stunned when we take back the Senate. So look, all the speakers have talked about our priorities. We need to re-elect Bill Nelson. He's a 5-time statewide winner. We need to send him back one more time. We have 3 great gubernatorial candidates. Leader Cruz invited me to the State of the State address. I had never been in the Capitol before. I want to tell you it was terrible. The only thing worse than the message was Governor Scott's delivery. This is the same Governor Scott that has deleted all his voicemails, destroying evidence related to those 12 nursing home deaths in Hollywood after the storm. And that night, I went to the governor's mansion. I wasn't in those doors. It was an open house after his terrible address. I wasn't in there 5 minutes when one of his staffers came up and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I thought we ought to look at the house before we took it back." So, when I ran, I said we need to do a few things. We need to register voters at an unprecedented rate all over the state, and we are. We needed to recruit and train candidates, so we had more and better candidates, and we fought them in every single race, from the top of the ballot to local races, and we are. And I said we needed to have the most unprecedented sized field operation the state has ever seen. We have 13 on staff now. It'll be at 20 by year end. By November 18, we'll be up to a couple of hundred. It's costing a lot of money, and yes, we are raising a lot of money, but not yet enough. So, when I was thinking about running, a state committee man over on the West Coast called and said, "You really need to do this." And like Terry said, I told everyone, "You're crazy. Listen, I know how to raise a little money. I don't know how to run a party." James Carville told me that was all I needed to know how to do. But this state committee man on the West Coast said, "You can be the Florida Democratic Party's Terry McAuliffe." I said, those are really big shoes to fill. But when you walk into the DNC building in DC, Terry McAuliffe raised the money and got that building done. Now, the wisest thing he may have ever done was marry a woman from Florida. Rumor has it, Terry was such an aggressive fundraiser that he once wrestled an alligator for $15,000. I'm too old for that. But Terry has been a remarkable leader for Democrats all over this country for so many years. When I called him a couple of days before Charlottesville, and I said, "Do you remember the night we spoke for a long time on the balcony of a townhouse in Denver at the convention?" Not only did he remember, and by the way, there was one of him, and there were a lot of guys like me, he knew everyone who was on that balcony with us. I mean, he has remarkable human skills, exceeded only by exceptional fundraising prowess, and beaten, most importantly, by a heart and soul that has done things as the governor of Virginia that we need to do in Florida, like restore felons' rights. So I could have spent all my 10 minutes talking about him and it wouldn't have been enough. He's got a great bio that's listed in the program. Terry McAuliffe has been a remarkable Democrat for a long time. I said to him tonight, "When did you first start going to dinners like this?" He said, 1979. And I said, "How many have you been to?" He said, "Thousands." So He is not getting tired. He is still fighting for us every day, and it is a privilege and an honor to welcome him tonight and have him address us.
Well, good evening, Florida Democrats. What an honor to be here tonight. Let's give our state chair, Steve, a great round of applause. I thank him for the great work he has done. And I want to thank the greatest county chair in America. Give Terry another great round of applause. It is great to be here with you tonight. I'm honored to have my wife, the First Lady of the Commonwealth of Virginia, who is a Florida resident, but I can't think of another place than right here in Palm Beach County to celebrate our 29th wedding anniversary. She knew when she married me a long time ago, this is how we're going to spend most of our anniversaries. But honestly, I can't think of a better place. Folks, what an honor to be here with you tonight. I have traveled the country. I have gone to more of these dinners than any man in the history of the Democratic Party. I have been involved in this party for over 40 years. I have held every job you can have in this great party. From serving as the national chairman, to chairing conventions, to chairing inaugurals. Been involved at every single level. And I first want to give a shout out to the folks in this room for supporting this county dinner, for making the phone calls and knocking on the doors and doing the hard work, because you are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. So give yourselves a great round of applause. So folks, I'm fired up for our party, but if you've known me for years, I'm always fired up. Good news is we got a lot of great opportunities going around all over the country. I remind everybody that Bill Clinton won in '92, he won in '96. I remind you that Al Gore actually got more votes for president in 2000 than George Bush, as we all know here. Barack Obama elected twice President of the United States of America. And I do remind everybody else that Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump did for President of the United States. Now, he doesn't like to hear that, folks. And he grumbles about it every single day, and he talks about voter fraud. He cannot get over that he did not win the popular vote. But he did. And we got to remind him of that every single day. But how do we go forward as a party? Because we do have challenges. I am very concerned because we have been wiped out at the state level. Over the last 9 years, we've lost 978 state legislative seats. We've lost over 30 chambers, and now they control 68 of 98 chambers. We've lost 12 governors. We're down to 15 Democratic governors in the United States of America. We lost 67 House seats. We lost control of the Senate. So we got to get all that back. And why you should be very concerned as Democrats is that 2020 will be a new census. And in 2021, they will redraw every single line in America. And today, for over 70% of the United States of America, Republican chambers will draw those lines. That's why we have to get off the map. We got to start winning. I think our party, for too long, is focused on the presidential. We've raised billions of dollars, and then we go dormant for a couple of years after that and not focus on state and local races. We got to get in and win at the local level. The Koch brothers figured this out 10 years ago, folks. They put up $1 billion. And they went all across this country, started winning at the local level. They took over a progressive state like North Carolina and turned it into a Tea Party state. They have done this in state after state after state, and we've allowed that to happen. We got to get in the game. Because with the Republicans in Congress, there's nothing happening there. What they're doing at the state level, folks, they are rolling back rights for women, LGBT members, they're rolling back protections for our environment, they're putting more guns on the street, And they're taking away voting rights at the state level, state by state by state. And that's why what you're doing here is so important. We need Democrats who are willing to stand up based on a value proposition of who we are and willing to fight for it. I am sick and tired of Democrats putting their fingers in the air, determining which way the polling data is. The heck with the polls. We know what we stand for as Democrats, and it is time to stand up and fight. And let the chips fall where they may. When I ran for governor of the capital of the Confederacy, a southern state. I'm very proud that I was the first candidate or elected official statewide in the entire South to come out for marriage equality. That wasn't an easy thing to do in Virginia, but it was the right thing to do. Virginia's the home of the NRA. That's where their national headquarters is. They gave me an F when I ran for governor, the first gubernatorial candidate to get an F, and I told them I was proud of that number, and I only wish there was a lower number and they could have given that to me too. I told women I would be a brick wall to protect their rights because before I became governor, we made national news. We had a bill called the transvaginal procedure that was introduced and passed in Virginia. Before a woman could have an abortion, she had to go through this procedure. I'm not making any of this thing up. We had these trap laws put in place. That every women's health clinic, all 27 women's health clinics had to comply with hospital regulations. That means widen hallways, add water fountains, add parking spots. It had nothing to do with a woman's safety. These clinics operated at no profit. It was to bankrupt every single one of them, shut them down. I told women I'd protect those rights. So I stand here 4 years later after getting elected to break a 44-year trend to get elected the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we've had great results. I have not wavered one bit. I fired the entire Board of Health and I've eliminated every single one of those trap regulations and got rid of those in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have the record as the governor who has vetoed more legislation than any governor in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I have a very Republican legislature, 66 out of 100. If I lose one vote, 67, I get overridden. And I'm very proud of my small team of Democrats, 34, in my House of Delegates. I am the first governor never to be overridden. 120 to 0. Never once did they override my veto. These are important issues. I've reformed criminal justice, the juvenile justice system. I've reduced it by 2/3. And what I've told everybody is when you do these issues, your economy will grow. We as Democrats got to focus on those economic issues. I ran for governor on jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. But you cannot create jobs if you are putting walls up around your state, if you are discriminating. And I'm proud to stand here today, ladies and gentlemen, 4 years later. We have driven our unemployment rate from 5.4 down to 3.7, the third lowest in the United States of America. You tell Governor Scott, that's a lot lower than you have here in Florida today. But when you get Democrats, you create jobs, economic opportunity. My unemployment claims I announced last week just hit a 44-year low, the lowest since 1973. When you get Democrats in office, you create economic opportunity. The largest investment in K-12 in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We gave our teachers 2 years of pay raises that they hadn't had them in 8 years. We got to take care of our teachers here. And folks, we're a different state today. So my message to everybody always is, as Democrats, we got to fight on a value-based proposition. If you believe in health care for everyone, then go fight for it. If you believe the same quality education for every child, then go fight for it. You want a clean environment, go fight for it. I got zero tolerance for the whiners in our party. We have got to move forward. I cannot relive yesterday's election, but I can tell you this, we got to move forward. Florida's an important piece of the puzzle. We got to get Bill Nelson back in, but goodness gracious, we need a governor here in 2018. Because in 2021, when those lines are drawn, one person can stop a Republican legislature's map, and that is the governor. That's why we got to get up from 15, folks. We have 36 governor's races up in 2018. We got to win a majority of those, get this party back in gear. But the last and most important thing I did is why who I am and why we are Democrats. I stood in the steps of our Capitol, our historic Capitol that was built by Thomas Jefferson. I mean, think about this for a second, folks. Virginia's first governor, Patrick Henry, started the American Revolution. Give me liberty, give me death at St. John's Church. Our second governor, Thomas Jefferson. And now, Terry McAuliffe. Is this not a great country we live in? And I was born in New York, who knew? Well, whatever. Yeah, the good New York, it is what it is. But we have to treat everybody with dignity and respect. I was so tired when I would see fathers come up to me and grab my arm and say, Governor, I need your help. I got out of prison, but I'm a second-class citizen. So I banned the box, first thing I did. In Virginia, if you had outstanding court fines and fees, guess what? They took your driver's license away. Well, how the heck can you pay off your court fines and fees if you can't drive to work? So we got rid of that. So we incrementally had moved to give everybody the rights back. But my best moment was when I stood in our Capitol on April 22nd, and I stood on the same spot that a state senator by the name of Glass, who in 1902 put a poll tax, a disenfranchisement, and a literacy test in our Constitution. And what he said, his quote, "We are doing this to eliminate the darky from being a political force in Virginia." That was his quote. Well, folks, a new sheriff in town 114 years later. I stood on those same steps and used executive authority to restore the rights of 206,000 Virginians to give them the right to vote back a returning felons. And that is more than any governor in the history of the United States of America. But that's who we are as Democrats. We can't be afraid to fight. So what happened? They sued me. The Republicans took me to the Supreme Court. Said I didn't have the authority. Now, I'll be honest with you folks. I went to Georgetown Law School. I went full-time day. I ran 3 companies. I wasn't in the building much for 3 years. I'll be clear. You would never hire me to be your lawyer, okay? It is what it is. But I passed the bar. Even I knew with my limited legal background, the Constitution, the governor has the authority to restore his rights. It's pretty clear. But the Supreme Court, we're one of 2 states where the legislature approves all the Supreme Court justices. They were the plaintiffs, so guess what happened? They said, we're not going to let them do it. Not on constitutional theory. They said, we're not going to let them do it because no governor has ever done it before. Well, that's not a constitutional theory, and the reason why no Virginia governor's ever done it, hard thing to do. They said, if he's going to do it, he has to sign them all individually. So, I called a press conference in front of the Civil Rights Memorial and said, bring them out with a big wagon with 206,000 petitions and said, we start signing them today. Well, hang on, they didn't like that either, folks. And they sued me again. I am the first Virginia governor to be sued for contempt of court. However, This time I won. And I have now restored the rights of 171,000 Virginians and given them their rights back to make them full members of society. But this is what we as Democrats got to do all over the country. Stand up, lean in, and fight on the values that we are as Democrats. So I thank you folks here. I got signs moving, it's a little... Who needs Jefferson? I got McAuliffe. But when you leave here tonight, think about running for office, get yourself engaged, take on that fight, but never forget the values of who you are. People have lost faith in our government. I am sick to my stomach that 92 million Americans stayed home last year and did not vote in the presidential election. 77,000 votes in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania would have changed it and Hillary Clinton would be in the White House. 92 million people. Men and women have fought in this country for the right, for our basic freedoms, and who the heck are these people not to vote? It is disgraceful. Dorothy and I have a son today in the United States Marine Corps. He is deployed in a conflict area today. He and all the other men and women who wear the cloth of the country are fighting for us. Shame on these people who do not come out and vote. Shame on them. So folks, let us get ourselves fired up. And as the governor of the state where the revolution started and the revolution ended, let us start our own revolution. And let us all be revolutionaries for the Democratic Party and those men and women in this country today who do not have a voice, and we are their voice to protect them and give them the rights they rightfully deserve. Thank you, God bless you, and we love Palm Beach County.
This evening and giving us those inspirational words. And we want to thank both of you for being here on your wedding anniversary to celebrate with 600 of your fellow Democrats. That was phenomenal. Thank you all so much.